Hi everyone, and welcome back to Learning Kitchen Live. We are on episode 8 and I'm excited to be with you today. My name is Valerie Machinist and I am our Manager of Nutrition Services here at Community Servings. And today we're going to make smoothies, which is super exciting, especially with all the heat that we've been having here in the Northeast. A nice cool treat and a nice cool healthy treat at that will be great for everybody to learn. You may be wondering why you need a lesson in making smoothies, because many people think you just throw a lot of things in a blender and turn it on and you have a smoothie. And while that's true, there is a little bit of art behind making a smoothie that not only tastes really good, but is really good for you and not loaded in too many calories and too much sugar. So that is what we are going to cover today, making delicious smoothies that are healthy for you. I'm also going to spend a little time talking about calcium and vitamin D, two nutrients that are super important for all of us to get enough of and can be good, or at least the calcium can be a good component in a smoothie. So today we're going to make 2 smoothies and a smoothie bowl. We're going to make a peanut butter and jelly smoothie, which is as delicious as it sounds. We're going to make a creamy mango, lime, and avocado smoothie, and don't get lost, it's actually delicious. And we're gonna make a berry smoothie bowl. I'll talk a little bit more about the difference between an actual drink smoothie and a smoothie bowl and kind of the ways you can jazz that up and make it a really nice breakfast, lunch, or meal in general. So once again, my name's Valerie, and welcome to Learning Kitchen Live, where we are making smoothies today. So we're going to get started with the peanut butter and jelly smoothie, which is a personal favorite of mine. You put peanut butter in anything and I'm guaranteed to eat it, to be honest. But one of the things about smoothies is that they're a really, really good way to get lots of produce into your diet. People don't always think of them that way, but they are a super easy way to pack a lot of fruits and vegetables and fiber and protein into a meal. And that can be really attractive because they're really quick to make too. You can prep everything beforehand like I have here, toss it in a blender and be ready to go. But you want to be mindful of how much of what you're adding to make sure you don't really tip the calorie scales or add a ton of extra sugar, which no one needs. So the first smoothie, again, peanut butter and jelly smoothie, right into the blender. I am going to put things that are going to mimic a delicious peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I want to say you can make this with any nut butter. So if you're allergic to peanuts or you just don't like peanuts, you can make this with sun butter, sunflower butter. You could make it and it would be delicious without any nut butters too. But I happen to like it with the peanut butter, but you could use any nut butter or any butter that you would not be allergic to. So I have a heaping cup, or about a cup and a quarter of frozen strawberries. And these are berries that I bought frozen from the produce section in the frozen produce section in the grocery store. So you don't need to use everything fresh for this. So frozen strawberries, unsweetened, that's the key. Don't buy these with sugar. And into the blender they go. About a cup of frozen raspberries. And I am going to add to this, excuse me, I have frozen raspberries all over me. I'm going to add to this a half a cup of 2% Greek yogurt. And one of the components of a good smoothie is that it has some fiber in it, which we're covering in this one with all of the fruit, and also has some protein in it. And those are the components that are going to make a smoothie more filling for you and make it feel more like a substantial meal or snack. So I'm going to put in, this is an 8-ounce container, and I'm going to put about, I think it's an 7-ounce container. So I'm going to put in about half of this. And you could, I'm using regular Greek yogurt. You could use a non-dairy yogurt, and you could even use silken tofu here if you wanted to keep this vegan. You could use a non-dairy milk. It'll be have a little bit more of a liquid consistency if you do that. But that, again, is one of the great things about smoothies, is they're super customizable. All right, I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of creamy peanut butter. And I used this the last time I taught when I made a peanut sauce. And the thing that I like to look for in any nut butter is that the ingredients are the nut and the salt. Maybe a little extra oil to thin it out a little bit, but you really want to keep nut butters as simple as possible. The nuts and maybe the salt, and you could even go unsalted with this if you wanted to. All right, so 1 tablespoon and 2 tablespoons. And then I'm going to just add a tiny little bit of salt, about like a pinch of kosher salt. And we are going to blend this up. And it's going to be loud. Sometimes when you're making smoothies, especially if you put a lot of frozen produce in, it needs a little coaxing to get the blender going and blending things. Let's give that another try. Getting there. What I am going to do to loosen this up a little bit is I'm actually going to pour a little bit of milk in. I'm going to use this for our smoothie bowl. So I'm just going to put a tiny bit in to just loosen it up and give it a little more ability to blend. There we go. Just going to keep coaxing it. So when you're looking to make a smoothie, you really want like a base, which is usually going to be like fruit or bananas or something, and then a liquid, which in this case is really the yogurt. I think this is all, it's just a little too thick. When I make this at home, I don't always use Greek yogurt, so I'm just going to put a little bit more milk in, and I think that is the difference. There we go. A few more tries. Some other things that you can do when you're making smoothies is you can add any kind of fruits. You can add vegetables. Our next one is going to have a number of vegetables in it. Greens and avocado are a great addition. And adding things like nut butters is great, and then yogurts, milks, dairy alternatives, silken tofu, all of those things make for a really good, substantial, healthy smoothie. I am just not having success with this blending up. There's a giant chunk of strawberry in there that is giving me the trouble. I'm going to add just a little bit more milk again and see if we can coax it to get a nice liquid consistency. What you want to be most careful of when you're making a smoothie is adding sweeteners that you might not need. That's where smoothies can go from being a really, really healthy treat to being like a sugar and calorie bomb. So you want to make sure, there we go. All right, I think we're going to call this a day and pour out what we can. There's one giant strawberry in there that just does not want to blend. Before you add any sweeteners to a smoothie, which could be anything from maple syrup and honey or agave syrup or simple syrup to just plain old sugar, you really want to taste it and make sure you need it. Because if you're adding a lot of fruit, in this case peanut butter too, which tastes a little bit sweet, bananas, any of those things are going to lend natural sweetness, and while they will add sugar, they're not going to add extra sugar. So that's something that you really should pay attention to before sweetening it, and taste it. And then if it needs some sweetness, you can certainly add it. Some other really great things to add into smoothies to give it a flavor of sweetness without adding sugar are a dash of cinnamon, a dash of vanilla extract actually goes a long way. These are all really good things that add flavor without adding sugar to it. So let's see how this looks and pours out. It's really thick. Almost need a spoon to eat this one. Once it gets a little warmer, it'll be totally drinkable. So this, not a great pouring job, but this is our peanut butter and jelly smoothie. And the other thing to note when you're making smoothies, especially if you're following a recipe, is the serving size. So this recipe is written for 4 servings, which would be about this size. So maybe not enough to make you feel full for a meal or breakfast or lunch, but certainly a snack. And you want to pay attention to that to make sure you're not, topping like 600, 700, 800 calories for one smoothie. A lot of commercial smoothies that are made from smoothie shops and whatnot, while delicious, some of them are well over 1,000 calories just for a smoothie. And it may not be bad for you, that's likely more than you need in any one sitting for a meal or a snack. So I am going to have Beth, who taught last week, put a little bit more of this in some glasses and wash the blender out for me so I can use it for our smoothie bowl in a little bit. I'm going to switch up my blender. The other thing to add to this, if you really want to be extra fancy, is just a little topping of chopped up unsalted peanuts. Gives it a little extra fancy look. All right. So one of the things that I mentioned at the beginning was talking a little bit about calcium. And as you saw, I was able to add some Greek yogurt to this smoothie to make it, to give it a little substance. Supposed to give it a little bit of liquid. That didn't work out so well for me, but and also it adds protein, but calcium as well. And calcium is one of those nutrients that our bodies don't make. It's a mineral found out in nature, but our bodies don't make it, and we need it. We need it for strong bones. Calcium helps with muscle contraction. It's stored in our teeth, our bones. It helps our heartbeat. We need it for so many things, and not getting enough on a regular basis can be really detrimental. When we're not taking in enough calcium through food and maybe supplements, our body starts to take it out of our bones, and over a long period of time, that can lead to your bones just becoming weak, and no one really wants that. So it's important to get enough. And calcium is pretty easy to get in your diet. It's found in dairy products first and foremost, so milk, yogurt, cheeses, all of those things. But it's also found in leafy green vegetables. So kale, spinach, broccoli, those are actually really good sources of calcium, as is soybeans or edamame. Those are great sources too. The thing that's nice about being able to get calcium from food sources too, though, is that a lot of products are now fortified with calcium. So if you don't drink cow's milk and you only use dairy alternatives like almond milk, soy milk, coconut milk, whatever, those are all typically now fortified with calcium. So you may not get quite as much as you do in a glass of cow's milk, but you will get calcium in your diet, which is great. So our next smoothie actually uses fresh spinach, and that's going to add a good amount of calcium to it as well. So this is our creamy mango, avocado, and lime smoothie. And I have a feeling some of you are thinking, why on earth would I put an avocado in a smoothie? But I promise you, you are not going to taste it. And one thing I did forget to grab, and I'm going to ask my dear friend and amazing dietitian Beth if she would grab some ice for me. I forgot to grab some before class started. So she is going to get that while I prep all the other ingredients. So to this smoothie, we're going to add not only a banana for some creaminess and sweetness, and this is actually a great way to use up slightly overripe bananas as well. If you remember a few weeks ago, Beth used overripe bananas to make some delicious pancakes. This is a great way to use them up too. I'm going to add about a cup of mango chunks, and I'm using frozen. You can use fresh, but again, they're pretty inexpensive to buy frozen. They're cut up already, so you don't have to worry about getting them off of the pit and out of the skin, so that's kind of an added bonus. And then I'm going to add a half an avocado, which is, again, just going to add to the creaminess of this. So now, for those of you who've never cut an avocado, what you want to do is run a knife and make a cut all the way around it. Oh, thank you, Beth. Beth is working like double duty behind the scenes today, as is Eileen, our wonderful communications woman who is filming this. So you make a cut all the way around, twist it, and you end up with that. I'm going to save half of it for later. And then you can just take a spoon, it doesn't have to be as giant a spoon as this, and just scoop it out of the skin. Oops, that did not come off cleanly. Or peel the skin off, as it were. And then in it goes. I am going to add 2 tablespoons of fresh lime juice. So I am going to just squeeze the juice of about 1 lime in there. I'm going to wing this a little bit. So green smoothies have always been, I think, a thing, and the way most smoothies get their green color is when you add greens to them. And it's, if you don't care for green vegetables, which I know there's some people who don't, it's a great way to get greens in your diet. When you put spinach or kale in a smoothie, especially when it's with a lot of other really delicious sweet ingredients, you really don't taste it. So you're getting all of the nutrients and the fiber from the green leafy vegetables without really the flavor. Now, I happen to love kale and spinach, but for those of you who don't, this is a great way to get some green leafy vegetables in your diet. So I'm going to add about 2 cups of spinach. And what I'm going to do is just give this a whirl in the blender, see if we have a little more success this time in getting this going. And now I'm going to add a little bit of crushed ice. And I think you could go either way. When you add crushed ice to a smoothie, it makes it like really frothy almost and really cold and delicious, but you could drink it just like this if you wanted to. Another thing you could do, I didn't do for this, but I will show you this with the smoothie bowl, is you could use frozen banana, and that'll also give it a little bit of a frothy flavor. All right, so that's about 2 cups of ice. That's about all we're going to get out of that, I think. So I'm going to try to just stir that around a little bit. But look at what a beautiful color that is. And so this smoothie has about 8 grams of fiber in it per serving, and this is about 2 servings. And that's really, like, that's pretty good for a snack or a breakfast. There we go. And neither of these smoothies have any added sugar in them. So there's some naturally occurring sugar from the vegetables, but there's no added sugar. The first smoothie had about had, I think, about 10 grams of protein in it. Pour this over here. And this one has a little less protein in it, but lots of fiber. So a really good filling meal. So look at that. That just looks so good. Yeah.
If you wanted to put protein in there, what would you add?
Oh, good question. So someone asked if you wanted to add a little protein to this smoothie, which I'm not doing a great job of pouring, what would you add? I would say you have a couple of choices. So good protein sources for smoothies can be anything from dairy products or dairy alternatives. So you could add some yogurt or some milk to it. You could actually add protein powder if you wanted to. A lot of people buy some very basic protein powders, vanilla flavored generally, and you can add a scoop of that. You could add to this one, I think my preference would be some yogurt or some silken tofu. Would give it a really nice creamy consistency, and you would get all the benefits plus a little extra protein. So great question. All right. So that is smoothie number 2. And again, I promise you, the avocado just really gives it some of that nice creaminess and body. You don't taste it in there, so it's not like you're drinking a bowl of guacamole at all. It's really, really sweet. Oop, thank you. So just to talk a little bit more about calcium, you know, again, it's a nutrient or a mineral that we all need, and along with calcium, we also need vitamin D, and that's why you often hear about them talked about together. And there's also a lot of supplements that are calcium plus vitamin D. Vitamin D is a vitamin that actually helps our bodies absorb calcium. So you really need the vitamin D to help your body absorb the calcium as well. And the easiest way to get vitamin D is through exposure to sunlight, but you know, in moderation, being very careful, because exposure to too much sunlight also has some risks for your skin. Vitamin D isn't found naturally in that many foods, like a lot of fish, oily fish or canned fish. So some of the best food sources are things like canned salmon and sardines and tuna with the bones in it. So nothing you'd be making a smoothie out of, but those are really good sources of naturally occurring vitamin D. And then also fortified foods, that again is fortified in many foods that have calcium in it. When talking about any kind of supplement, the thing that's really important is that you speak with your healthcare provider before starting to take any supplement. It may seem really innocuous, but you always want to speak with your doctor, a nurse, a registered dietitian before you take anything, even if it's calcium and vitamin D, just to make sure you're not, it doesn't contradict any medications you're taking, hinder the absorption of any medications. So again, don't ever start taking supplements without talking to someone about it first. One of the things that I was going to show is this nutrition facts label, and I'm hoping Eileen can get a little bit of a shot of that. You've all seen this. It's on most of our food packaging. But an easy way to know how much calcium you're getting is by looking down here. It actually has vitamin D and calcium listed. And these numbers don't necessarily mean that much to people, but this is the percent of the daily value, and it's based on a 2,000 calorie diet. But what you can see is it says 20% for calcium in this kind of mystery food that we're looking at here. But that basically means you're getting 200 milligrams of calcium and change. And when you take calcium, the recommended allowance for most people is 1,000 to 1,200 milligrams a day based on your age. It's for women, it's under 50 or over 50, and men, it's under 70 or over 70. So you want to be looking to get your calcium from a mixture of food and supplements if you can't get it all through food. And this is a really easy way, if you're eating food with a package on it, to see that you're actually getting some calcium from food every day, and you may not need to supplement as much as you think you do. So I wanted to at least show this, and maybe we'll do a Learning Kitchen Live episode in the future and focus a little bit more on reading the nutrition facts label, because there's a whole lot to unpack on there. But our final recipe today is going to be the berry smoothie bowl. And what differentiates a smoothie bowl from a smoothie is really not much other than consistency. The bowl part of it just means that it's a little more substantial, and you could eat it with a spoon, add some toppings to it, or mix in some toppings to make it feel a little bit more like a meal. Although I'll be honest with you, the smoothies I made already came out pretty thick. Those could probably be bowls. But this is a really super simple, basic recipe. It is, as I mentioned before, 1 banana that I sliced up and froze overnight. So this, again, great way to use up overripe bananas. Slice it up, put it in a container, and stick it in your freezer for whenever you want to make a smoothie. So into the blender that goes. And then I have like a kind of a heaping cup of mixed berries. So some strawberries, raspberries, and blueberries. We'll see if those strawberries give me trouble blending again. And then this one has a little bit of milk in it. Again, I'm just using regular dairy milk, but you could use anything here. I think this would actually be really delicious with some light coconut milk, to be honest with you. So you could use yogurt, coconut milk, tofu, anything just to give it a little liquid to blend up. And let's see how this goes. So this is, bearing in mind this is supposed to be a little thicker because it's a bowl. I think that's actually pretty good. I have a big chunk of strawberry in there, but that's okay. What I'm going to do is plate this in a bowl. And you can see this is like almost the consistency of soft serve. This would make a delicious dessert too, by the way. And you couldn't, I don't think you could drink this. You really need to eat this with a spoon. And the thing, again, that's really nice about smoothie bowls is that you can top them with lots of things. So some of the things that would be really good on this would be like flaked unsweetened coconut. That's one of my personal favorites. But you could also add things like chia seeds. So this is, chia seeds are a really good seed that is, I'm just looking on here for the fiber content. 2 tablespoons of chia seeds have 8 grams of fiber and 4 grams of protein. So you don't necessarily want to put 2 tablespoons on this, but a little sprinkling of them adds some fiber to this. And they're yummy. They give like a little bit of a crunch. So I'm just going to sprinkle a few on. And then another personal favorite is granola. The thing to watch out for with granola, and I love granola on yogurt and on smoothie bowls. I like it on my oatmeal. I'll pretty much put granola on anything for breakfast. The thing to watch out for with granola is the added sugar to it, because they can be, granola is like one of those foods that has this like health halo over it, because you think granola, so you think, oh, it must be healthy. And it can be, but it can also be loaded with sugar. So this particular brand, for 1/3 of a cup, has only 5 grams of added sugar in it. So that's actually really good for granola. That's on the really low end. When I was kind of looking on the grocery store shelves yesterday, there were some that had over 20 grams of added sugar. Just because they're sweet, they're made to be breakfast cereals, and even if it's natural sugar, so things like honey or maple syrup, it's still sugar, so you want to be careful of that. So I'm going to add a little bit of granola on top. And look at how delicious that looks. And there you have it, a wonderful smoothie bowl. So, again, making smoothies is so easy. You can prep everything ahead of time, have it all ready to go, throw it in a blender, and you can be out the door in like less than 5 minutes. But the key is to know what you're putting in it, to measure ingredients, and to make sure that you're not overloading it with calories and sugar. These are all really lower in calorie, no added sugar choices that I think are great and healthy and tasty and filling. So there you have it, 2 smoothies and a smoothie bowl. Are there any questions?
Yeah, how many calories would be appropriate for like a breakfast smoothie?
Oh, great question. It was how many calories would be appropriate for a breakfast smoothie? And I would say 500 or less. Keep it, the bowl with the toppings or a smoothie, keep it under 500 calories. The one thing that can be a little tough with smoothies for some people is sometimes it doesn't feel as satisfying to drink your calories as it does to eat them. So when they're a little thicker and they're packed with fruits and vegetables, it does make it feel a little bit more filling. But if you just make a smoothie that's, say, like milk and yogurt and like a banana thrown in, while delicious, it may not feel as filling. Any other questions? Well, thank you all for joining today. I hope you got some great tips for making smoothies. I hope you all try them out. And we will be back next week, same time, 12:15. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone.